What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Champion Living Podcast, the only podcast crossing the lines between the sport of rodeo and fitness. Today's episode, Logan and I are breaking down the importance of mobility, what mobility means to add to your routine, what the differences between mobility and flexibility, and the benefits that come with paying attention to how mobile you are. But first, we're going to catch up on life for a minute. Logan, how is it being off the rodeo trail?
It's good, man. It's good. I miss Paul. I know you guys have done a couple because I've been traveling and I've never done one without
I was thinking
Paul.
that
Does
too.
this mean that we can say whatever we want to and not get fact checked? Because he's usually the sciencey, like knows all the details. We should be able to just say whatever we want, right? And he's not gonna,
potentially you can
he's
say
not here
whatever
to
you
correct
like.
us.
You can say whatever you like. You just will. People will be judging when they listen, I'm sure. Like, what is this guy talking about? They need Paul.
That's funny.
They need Paul. You getting back in your routine?
Yeah, we definitely do. Yeah, a little. Just long enough to. I leave again tomorrow, so I'm really excited. Going to Odessa, Texas, and getting to work with Coach Kelly down there and the whole Wranglers. So I'm really excited about doing a boot camp for them on Wednesday and Thursday. So I fly out tomorrow and get to go work out with those guys. So it's gonna be awesome. I'm really excited about that and then we'll get done with that on Thursday and cruise over to Wichita Falls, high-low. We've kind of had the summer off, so we've got just a 2-perfer in Wichita Falls this weekend. And that committee, man, if you ever get a chance to go to Wichita Falls, the rodeo there, that committee, they are awesome. They're just a bunch of they're good guys, and they work really hard and do it. Man, they do a great job on that rodeo. So I'm really excited to get back down there and get to see those guys that got to meet them all last year. So go do that on Friday and Saturday, and then Sunday midday fly home. So it's kind of a week on the road. I think that's going to be how it's going to be for both of us between now and who knows ever. Maybe we're home long enough just to get adapted and then leave again.
Yeah, dude, it's definitely just how it goes. But that's cool that you're getting back to it, and then you're going to do training camp for a college. I don't know if a lot of people know that we offer that or do that for college teams. But if anyone listening is a college coach and, you guys have training camp of some kind, I would hope. Most teams I know of are doing something like that, getting the team together, building that camaraderie. Very different sport than most, right? It's not really a team activity. We're all doing individual things together. So I think it's really cool what Tom does down there at Odessa College and really gets them together as a family. They come together. I got to do it last year, and each day is a specific event, and each day all of the team members are helping with that event, whether they're doing it or not, which is really cool. And then I like that they have full backing from their university. They have access to the gym, their full strength and conditioning facility. They have a full room they can use just as the rodeo team, which is, it's cool, man. You're going to have a really good time down there and gets to get a lot of good work in with them. Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm excited for you too. Really excited. My weekend, I went up to Missoula, which was fun. Got to go see the rodeo there for a bit. First time there. I think I said that last time. But yeah, I got to see it in the perf. And then what else did I do? I got a speeding ticket last night. First speeding ticket in a minute.
Nice.
Yeah.
Not you.
Super nice.
I can't believe that.
I know. I told Al, I was like, honestly, I'm probably due for that. Probably due for that.
That's so funny.
It was so dumb, just not paying attention. Yeah. 20 over. I was like, oof. That's not going to be cheap.
Oofta.
Not gonna be cheap.
Lacey just got one the other day right up here, and we live just 3 miles outside of this little town, 500 people, and so it goes from 55, which you run 70, obviously.
Yeah,
it goes from 55 to 35 like that, and there's a tiny little corner. So obviously, as you're coming into town, as you get to the stop sign, and she was running behind. She was coming to a rodeo that I was at and was bringing me some clothes and thought the rodeo started at 7:30. It started at 7. She was in a hurry, had all the kids with her. And so he did not give her a ticket for going 65 and a 35, but I'm pretty sure that's what she was running. He took it a little easier on her, but she did get a nice, it's like one of those where it's like, you can't just pay it. It's like a court
Oh,
date,
me
like the
too.
whole
I gotta
thing.
go.
So
Yeah, I gotta go to the court
she's
too.
like one step away from being a felon.
Yeah, no, I was right there.
So
Yeah, he was not cool with
anyway,
me at all. He like was that like fake nice, like how's it going,
oh yeah,
20 is a little excessive around here, and I'm like, yeah, dude, okay. Looking around on the road, there's nobody out. He's like, there's fishermen and cattle
yeah,
that get
yeah.
out on this road, and I'm like, sure, yes, sir, got it. Was very respectful, but at the same time, like, glad you're out here keeping these roads safe, bud. On a Sunday evening, fucking
That's all,
nobody out.
dude.
Yeah.
Dude, I had a guy pull me over one time just north of El Paso on my way back to Las Cruces with a new recruit that had just flown in to come look at the school. I went and picked him up, and we're on our way back, and I get pulled over in a construction zone. I'm going like 15 over in a construction zone. The guy that pulls me over, he's like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, oh, I coach the rodeo team up here in Las Cruces at State. And he's like, oh, you do? He's like, I was on the rodeo team. And I was like, oh, that's cool. He's like, yeah, I used to ride bulls on the rodeo team. I was like, that's cool. Well, I'm the rodeo coach now. He's like, oh, back when we didn't have a coach. We have a 15 or 20-minute conversation. Like
Still writes you a
introducing the
ticket.
rodeo, yes, our home rodeo was coming up. He was like, yeah, I'm going to come check out the rodeo. Still writes me a ticket. This whole
Oh, I
time,
love
I'm
it.
like, I'm wheeling and dealing myself out of a ticket. And he was
You're
like,
like,
all
oh
right,
yeah, this is
here's
looking
your
good.
ticket, man. Slow her down. I'm like, what
Mm,
a jerk.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. But
Yes.
in the end,
Anyway,
I was definitely in the wrong.
you'll have that.
My bad. I told him straight up. I was like,
Yeah.
I just wasn't paying attention, man. New truck just rides smooth. He's like, I get it. Here's your fine.
Here's
Here's
your
your fine.
ticket.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So
that's
no, it was
funny.
good though. A bunch of the guys are in
Mm-mm-mm.
town too. I love this time of year when everyone's stopping by. It was the same in Colorado.
Yeah.
So I was not worried about that. I was kind of going to miss that about seeing everyone, all the rodeos. So the last couple of days, everyone's been staying at Richie's place, which is literally a stone's throw away. So went to dinner last night with everybody and hung out. I love it. It's the best part about rodeo is
That's
everyone you get
so
to meet
cool.
and hang out with.
Yeah, it seems like the circuit up there really pops off in August and September. I mean, a guy can like go up there
Yeah.
and go to a bunch of good rodeos, and some of them are not that big. I mean, they're 3 to 5,000 at a decent sized rodeos. But
Mm-hmm.
man, a guy can go every weekend. I feel like the
Mm-hmm.
last 2 months of the season in Montana alone, and go to and get on great horses. Jay
Yeah. Get on
Bardet,
good stuff.
Sankey,
Mm-hmm.
man, just that. I mean, I feel like that circuit is outstanding.
Yeah. Kind of makes the guy want to be a circuit rodeo guy.
Circuit rodeo, and I got a spur board you can borrow.
Yeah. That's the last thing I need. That's the last thing.
Hey, did you work out this morning?
I did. I got a workout in this morning. I did. I'm still on those mix sessions that we've been doing. So I got
Yeah,
today was push press day with some box squat and rear foot elevated split squats and some banded leg extensions. So really just a lot of lower body, which is nice shoulder pump too. Kind of getting into that five
yeah,
sets of five now on the push press, and then it's
yeah,
building weight each week. So I've been adding like 2.5 to 5 pounds, just a little progressive overload for that. And I don't know if it's just because I from CrossFitting or whatever muscle memory, but my body when I start doing explosive movements like that, it gets fit really fast. I don't know. It's wild. Like
yeah,
aesthetically, it's the
yeah,
quickest
yeah,
changing thing for my body. If I do anything, if I pick a touch a barbell, it's like, oh, like you look bigger. Like this is cool. Like I did 2 weeks
oh
of
yeah.
this and I already feel like I look different. It's cool, man. But I've been really enjoying those sessions and they don't take long, which is the best part. They are,
Mm-hmm.
it does make you, I got to hit it 4 or 5 times a week just because they are a little bit shorter. So I have to
Yep,
be consistent on doing them.
yep,
But
yep,
I've done 3 days a week where they're an hour and a half each. And now I'm on this 4 to 5 times a
yep,
week, about an hour tops. It's usually about 45 minutes.
yep,
And I'm seeing better results from this. I think I'm just able to recover better. You're not pushing the stimulus so
yeah.
hard that you do have to focus on the recovery that much harder, on the other side of it. So I'm able to recover. I'm able to eat enough to help the recovery as well. Again, people don't think about
Mm-hmm.
you crush your soul there for 3 days in a week. Dude, you've got to eat a ton during
Yeah,
those days. So overall, I'm just seeing better results. I'm feeling better. Last year when I went hunting, my knee really gave me problems. towards the end of the week.
Mm.
And I remember coming off the mountain and being like, I should have done more box step ups. I should have done more knee extensions. And so I've been really digging that in this program. And I could, in the beginning, my knee was, it never feels weak until I start doing those exercises. In the first couple of days, it's like sore,
Yep.
but now it feels really good and strong.
Yep.
So no, I got a good workout in this morning. Did you get after it?
Yeah, yeah, I went. It was kind of a short one, but I woke up really early this morning. Yesterday, I mowed the yard and I got like maybe 6 or 8 mosquito bites on my fingers. And at about a quarter to 4 this morning, all of them decided. I don't know if I like rubbed them on something, but all of them just went crazy at a quarter to 4,
That's the
and I was
worst.
scratching, scratching,
It's like
scratching, couldn't
chiggers.
fall back asleep. So anyway, I got up and yeah, I was just, man, it was miserable. So anyway, I was like, all right, well, I guess that's it. Which I went to bed early, so I mean, I still got like 6.5 hours of sleep or something. But I went ahead and got up and had breakfast and made Lacey coffee when she got up at 6 and went into the gym. And it was relatively short. But one of the man, I tried this new. It's new to me. I've never done these split squats. My front foot was elevated just a little bit. I just put my front foot on a plate, and I used the Smith machine so that there was no like stability issues. I mean, it was just straight grind. And I didn't have to load it that heavy. I might have put a 45 on each side, and the Smith machine. So I don't even know what the total weight was because of the Smith machine bars being weird. But I'm gonna tell you what, 3 sets of those. It was a lower body day for me. 3 sets at 8 reps a side, and I would really try to focus as I'd come up from the bottom of that split squat to like raise my rear toe kind of just up off the ground a little bit at the very top, making sure that I'm like using that front leg as much as possible. Man, those were
Burner.
spicy. I feel like it's just right. I'm not going to be wrecked tomorrow, but man, those
Mm-hmm.
were really, really spicy. I loved them. I think I'm going to have to throw those in a little bit more regularly because I'd love to get better at them. And I love those unilateral lower body movements, whether it's a single leg RDL or something like what I did this morning. Man, they just they just hit different.
Yeah, they're awesome, and most people don't do enough of them. Speaking of not doing enough of something, let's talk about
Yeah,
some
for sure.
mobility. Definitely good. I want to
Oh,
get into
you're
mobility
gonna call
today
me
and the
out like
difference
that.
between. Yeah, you didn't do your mobility after your workout, did you?
I probably
No, I had to
did
rush
not.
back for the
Not
podcast.
really.
Excuses.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of them. We're all guilty of them. I'm not even going to lie. I've definitely made the excuse not to hit my mobility after the workout, which um, is why we're going to kind of plug in. One of the things I like to do is make sure I do my mobility before. It's like a dynamic warm up, but we'll talk about that here real quick. So I thought it being this time of season, the season's kind of coming up to that very last part. We're even past the last quarter now. We're about what 8 weeks, 6 weeks left. 6 weeks, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
Is yeah 6.
Everyone is beat to shit and sore. Uh, that's another thing. All the guys showing up, everyone's limping around a little bit and feeling the road. So mobility and maintenance are extremely important, not just right now, but throughout an entire year, and especially in your fitness program. So making sure that
Mm.
it does so much, like it's so easy to focus on building strength or getting your endurance up, but it's so easy to neglect the mobility training. And that actually is what has the most detrimental effects on our overall progress and health, I think. You put all this effort and work into the grind, like we were talking about, and you don't, again, we've said this a million times too, check off those recovery boxes, mobility being one of them. We're going to have a problem. And, whether you're a rodeo athlete, a lifter, runner, collegiate athlete, like your average Joe, mobility training needs to be a part of your routine. And that's going to look different for everybody, but it has a place for everybody. So let's go
Mm.
over flexibility versus mobility. Logan, just go ahead and give us the rundown on what flexibility is real quick.
Well, flexibility training, it's typically going to involve something more static, a longer held stretch, typically speaking at least 30 seconds, but could be as long as 2 or 3 minutes. And
Mm-hmm.
that's gonna be more of the flexibility aspect. Whereas mobility, it's almost like dynamic stretching. It's about owning a range of motion. So instead of,
Mm-hmm.
an example might be just a seated forward fold. You're sitting on your butt and you're reaching down and you're trying to touch your toes, and maybe you hold that for 30 seconds or a minute. That would be more of flexibility training, whereas mobility is going to work on those ranges of motion, but being strong in those ranges of motion.
Mm-hmm. And those ranges of motion that he's talking about, I think, are everything that is like the sport or activity that they're competing in, rather than just one individual
Absolutely.
muscle, like the static stretching or flexibility, if you will. No, I think that's great. And I think that dynamic stretching you mentioned is a great way to execute your mobility training. And also throwing that in your warm up. Like, that's my favorite way to make sure
Mm,
that I am doing my mobility is throwing a dynamic warm up in. And the way I have that, I actually have an example. I have a client, and she was struggling with overhead movements, and so we started taking 10 minutes to do some mobility drills before her lifts. Um, Not only could you see an increase in range of motion, but the possible risk of injury when we get overhead is really, man, it gets a little more dangerous when we get overhead, right? So if someone is pushing heavy weight with poor mobility, you're just kind of setting yourself up to be injured, and or at least increase that risk. So, throughout that 10 minutes, she was able to increase that range of motion, reduce that risk of injury, and the movement was that much better when she's actually got into her moving reps. Um, what's another situation that you see
yep.
mobility
We
wise,
see it
like
all
in
the time
rodeo
with hips,
athletes?
right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah, I mean, we
absolutely.
see it's hips. It's that's the number one thing that we hear on a consultation with a potential new client is my hips are bugging me. 2 out of 3 times, that's something that's going to come out of their mouth. And so when we're talking about this hip mobility, so much of what a rodeo athlete does is squeezing with our legs in some
Mm-hmm.
form or fashion. We're doing what's called adduction, right? And so because of that, we typically aren't working on what's called abduction or our glutes, the back side of that. And so with all of that being said, we see a lot of these hip imbalances start to come, and a little bit of mobility would definitely help with some of those symptoms that guys see. Their hips ache. That
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times driving, they talk about their hips aching, and they talk about some of those things. Well, a little bit of this mobility, like you're talking about, would definitely go a long way for them.
Absolutely. And, a good way to implement your mobility after a drive or, getting ready for a rodeo is as your warm up at the rodeo. You just got out of the truck, you're getting ready to ride a dynamic activation session that's going to increase that mobility is going to be the best thing you can do for your body when it comes to recovering from that drive and also preparing for the competition. So make sure you guys are thinking
Absolutely.
about that. Think about the active things you can do to make everything better for what's going on, because right now it's tough, especially if you're rodeoing hard, it's tough. But
Mm.
even if you're someone sitting in a chair for a long time at work, it's tough. It gets sore. I hate sitting in a chair. There's a lot of things you can do throughout the day, such as air squats. You can stand up and do some air squats every 10 minutes. You can do some 90-90 shin box switches. You can do waiter's bows. You can do prone planks and really squeeze that core, squeeze your glutes tight, get everything to activate. But we're talking about,
Mm.
every hour, 20 seconds, go. That's nothing. You do that anyways. You get up to get a
Yep.
drink of water. I'm going to
Yep.
bust out 5 air squats really nice and slow here, really squeeze my glutes to the top.
Mm.
Same thing, getting out of the truck, pumping gas. So just standing here leaning against the truck saying, fuck, I'm so sore. Do something about it. Improve that mobility. Uh, it's funny, right? We just say do something
What
about it,
does
but
that
how many
lead
times do
to?
you hear that? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. But what that's going to lead to for you is an improvement in your biomechanics, the way that you
Yes. That's the
operate and that
biggest
you
thing.
move. And as those that's it's I mean, we can't skip over this without talking about an improvement in biomechanics. When you're we what we really see a lot, how many times at an OPA have we gone through an evaluation or just working with a new client, and we put them in some sort of like glute bridge position? Okay, we're looking for a straight line from your shoulders through your hips to your knees and that glute bridge, and they can't get their hips up. And
Hmm.
it's not because they don't necessarily have the strength. We're talking about that neural pathway and being able to activate those muscles. So much of, like just what you said, we're sitting so
Mm-hmm.
long and we never really utilize a lot of those muscles. So our connection there gets a little rusty, and we have to really work on trying to get these muscles activated because they're so ignored and underutilized. So if you're trying to get rid of some of those nagging aches and pains from driving or sitting, that improvement in biomechanics by doing some of these mobility exercises is going to be key for you.
Absolutely. And I think that, speaking of biomechanics, if you notice that you do move, I don't want to say poorly because I'm not trying to be rude or, speak some way, like some type of way to somebody, but if you realize that your mechanics are not that good, I would almost guarantee it's because of your mobility. The one thing I see in evaluations is someone is not performing an exercise correctly. They're not mobile enough to do so, right? So
Mm,
take a step back if you're noticing that, or like, you're doing bench press, your shoulders get tight all the time. You're feeling that tightness in the front of that shoulder and it feels, it's not getting better. You've got to work on that mobility, and you got to work on, we see a lot of like bilateral deficiency, right? Guys, girls being stronger on one side than the
yes.
other. And that can cause a lot of mobility issues as well. And especially in rodeo, uh, pretty much all events are one sided, like riding hand, roping hand, steer wrestling side. Like, yeah, you're all pretty much, it's very likely that you're going to see a bilateral deficiency in the sport of rodeo, especially with untrained athletes, right? So, I have never really run it through my head like that. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's every single event minus like barrel racing, but still, we're
Yeah,
probably going to see it there. Um, Calf ropers exiting that same like
absolutely
one
you
way,
are.
yeah, like absolutely, you're going to have a very
Yes.
dominant side, and you're going to notice big differences. And if you don't at least try and address those huge changes in strength from one side to the other, we're going to run into injury and we're going to run into a lot of long term problems. So the hardest thing for athletes to do is to take that step back and go do the shit that they
Hmm.
need to, aka mobility, and then they can address the strength and the conditioning and, being elite in the arena, because the
Yes.
bottom line is everyone wants to do this sexy stuff that's, going to make you the best. Dude, nothing makes you the best but doing the fucking basics perfect and staying consistent with it. And, the
Mm,
basics are strength,
yep.
mobility, conditioning at a very broad spectrum. That is
Yes.
the essentials of fitness, right? So
I
it's
I
uh
couldn't
it's
couldn't agree
simple.
more. I Yes, yes, it is. And I am a living testament to what you were just talking about. I mean, rode bareback horses for about 15 years. I can't pick my nose with my left hand, so I do everything, especially squeezing my rigging handle with my right hand. And so for a long time, not that I had big arms, but my right arm was twice the size of my left arm. But what we've found, and we see this a lot with calf ropers as well, like you were talking about exiting that way, what for myself personally, I still don't have full range of motion out of my right
Mm-hmm.
arm. And so it's like, okay, does it really hinder me in my day to day? I never noticed it until I started getting into the fitness space and I realized the muscle imbalances that's going to cause. Think about doing a pull up when one arm can
Mm-hmm.
fully extend and the other arm can't. And
Yeah,
so
anything
there's a lot of
overhead.
range of motion things. And exactly. And that could have been probably, maybe not completely prevented, but there was a lot of things that I could have done during my career if I would have known, number one, and number two, if I would have been willing to take the time, that would have helped me because I've got a lot of life outside of rodeo. And so if we'll, like you said, do the boring stuff, it is dramatically going to improve your quality of life, your performance, well, not only in the arena in the short term, but in the long term as well.
Absolutely, man. A little tip for anybody out there that maybe deals with that not being able to extend your elbow. I don't know how we would do it on a pull up, but on a push up, I've had people with that same problem not be able to extend one elbow all the way, and it started causing, after
Yep.
a fair amount of volume over a couple of weeks, an imbalance. They were starting to get like really tight on that left side that they're really
Mm-hmm.
pushing with, and so a PT friend of mine gave me a good tip, and he would just put like a little 2.5 pound plate under that hand that could not extend all the way. So
Mm-hmm.
what that does is you are extending as far as you can with that bent arm, but it's evening out your
Ooh.
back, your torso
Yes.
with, so you're
Yes.
not kind of shrugged over there, right? It evens everything out. And I was like, that's something so simple
Mm-hmm.
that goes so far. There's a
Yes.
lot of range of motion things or movements where people have issue with range of motion. That might be a very easy thing you could add in to kind of help. And again, if it gets better, cool, you can take it away. If it's something you're kind of going to live with, then it's an adjustment that needs to be made so you can train appropriately and not have to be constantly dealing
Love
with
that.
nicks and knacks,
Absolutely.
right?
Mm,
Nicks and knacks.
absolutely.
And man, mobility is so important. So important. It's I the bottom line is like I just feel so much better when I do it. Like
Mm-hmm.
imagine I just tell people, imagine being able to do that squat, bend over without your like hips and ankles cracking and popping, walking upstairs without them cracking and popping. As we get older, like we don't see it now as young athletes. We don't. We do see it. We're not young anymore, but the other athletes that we train a lot of times don't see that. Yeah, that later in life, it's going to be important to want to go like do shit with go play some golf with your buddies and not be so sore you can't do it. You know, go go hunting with your buddies. Like there's so many things after rodeo, but you've got to be mobile. You've got to take care of yourself, and you've got to do these mobility drills in order to increase your longevity, man. Increase your quality of life. You know, um, another thing, like something very simple. Someone sits in the desk. I bet you deal with shoulder and neck pain all the time, and it's constant. And I know because I'm that. But look at me right now. My fucking traps are engaged right now. My head's all pushed forward. Like God, no wonder my shit hurts all the time. But there are mobility drills we can do through our thoracic spine, our neck, strengthening drills that can improve this, improve that posture, help your muscles get stronger, so you can hold this huge dome of your head over your neck. Um, there's so many little things we can do, and it's just so important. And no one realizes that the little things that you do that feel like you're not doing anything, and you do them over and over and over and over, are the things that go the furthest for anything, health, fitness,
Mm.
business, relationships. Like just put that effort in intentfully and do it. And mobility is something we've preaching all the time, but it's so important. And right now, just hanging out with all the guys, watching them hobble into to dinner last night, I was like, we definitely need to talk about mobility. Um,
Don't miss that.
definitely don't. What the best thing about this too, as an athlete, especially in rodeo where you're going to get injured frequently and you don't have to control of that a lot, mobility is a great way to minimize or mitigate the chances of being injured big time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
injury prevention is such a cliche term, especially in a sport like rodeo. I mean, you go out here and you sit in the middle of the highway cross-legged, you can't be upset when you get run over by a semi. I mean, you're getting on a bull, you're, doing something that's inherently dangerous. But but what that's but there is a lot of the things that come throughout the course of a season that maybe the injury would have still happened, but you could have recovered way faster,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
or the how dramatic the injury was could have been much less because of the work that you had put in doing the boring stuff, the stuff that nobody wants to. So if you do your mobility, does that mean you'll never be injured? Absolutely not. That's not what we're saying. However, over the course of your career, being able to bounce back and being equipped for those injuries when they do come,
Mm-hmm.
it's the key.
It is. It is the only key, man. You've got to be able to do it. You got to plug it into your routine and get it done, guys and girls. Um, we see it all the time. Wrecks happen. Guys get up, a little bruised, a little broken, recovered the next week. You see guys that do not train and pay attention to that. They do not bounce back in a week. And a lot of times they don't bounce back at all. They're not the same athlete that they were
Mm.
before that injury. So take care of yourselves, y'all. Make sure you're paying attention to that mobility. If you need ideas for mobility, go to my Instagram. I have just been absolutely blowing that thing
Mm.
up with mobility drills. So champion.living, check it out. Logan's on there at logan.championliving. All kinds of mobility drills. Guys, shoot us a DM if you have questions about specific things. We can help you out, give you some answers. Got to thank our sponsors, Beastmaster Rodeo, been with us since day one, the premier rodeo gear company in the world. Check them out, Beastmaster Rodeo. Whether you are the elite of the elite or just getting started, they've got everything you need. Rough stock side to the timed event side, and even some stock contract and stuff. Check them out, guys. BeastmasterRodeo.com. Use our discount code ChampionLiving, all one word and uppercase. Going to save you 10% on all their gear and Hui brands. Yeah, you see these ballin' hats that we're wearing. I do love this pro rodeo hat so much. I have 5 or 6 hats, so I just wear this one on repeat. But Hui brand, y'all
I
check
was
them
gonna
out. Use
say
our
you wear it
discount
every
code
day.
ChampionLiving all day. Yeah, all day, every day. Champion Living, all one word. Going to save you 10% on all Hui gear. Guys, until next time, we'll catch you later.